Hey there, guys. I just wanted to, I'm sitting in my kitchen. It's Sunday night. Just wanted to, I don't even know if the lighting's any good, but I just wanted to go live and talk for a minute about what's going on astrologically. And it's a very interesting time. One of the things that happened today, obviously, most of you know, and on today, like I can't even think of the day, you guys. This is how like crazy it is. And I'm only slating the day because Kobe Bryant was killed in a copter crash. And what's tragic about it is he was with his daughter, and they were going to a basketball practice, and they were apparently with another parent and child. So I don't know who they were with necessarily because they haven't released it as of this taping. But, you know, there's a couple things going on, and especially astrologically. I'm sorry, I know you guys are in my kitchen. Sorry, I just brought you right into the kitchen with me. So there's a couple things, and I'm going to say hi to people in a moment. The first thing I want to say is that as Saturn, the planet of lessons, by the way, just so you know, Saturn kind of can go like a metronome. Sometimes it goes into a planet and then a sign, and then it comes out. And right now we're in the throes of Saturn again, leaving Sagittarius and going into Capricorn. Now, what does that mean in English? Guess what? The Wi-Fi looks weak. Thanks, Cruise Boston. I don't know if I even try to touch anything, it'll just, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on all this, but here's what's going on. Can you see me? Is the picture okay? I know, you know what it is. It's the, I'm not in the best lighting because I'm in my kitchen. So, all right. Okay. Hi, Rudy. Hi, Janet. Anybody new? Just want to say hi to you if you're new. Okay, so okay, great. Thanks, Spiritual Health and Wellness Center. So here's what's going on. All of a sudden I had the strangest feeling, and I turned on the TV earlier. I'm working on my new book, and I've just been with that. And sorry, I'm getting ready to put a new nail set on. And I just said, okay, something's telling me to turn this on. And I turned it on, and there was the story about Kobe Bryant and his daughter dying in this helicopter crash. And it shifted for me into, wow, what's going on right now astrologically? Because a lot of people have been saying, oh, this week was crazy. Every week's crazy. You know, I'm telling you, in this incarnation, you guys know every week's crazy. But I want to just mention what to expect as Saturn goes into Capricorn. Now, Saturn, a lot of people go, oh no, Saturn, it's hard work. Yeah, it is hard work. But here's the good thing. 7 additional died. I didn't know that. Cruise Boston just posted that. I had no idea. I knew that there were 5 people that were in the copter, but I don't know. I thought it was 5 total. So just let us know, Cruise Boston. Yeah, it really is a very intense time. And I'm going to talk about this, and I'll come back to what's going on with this. Okay, with the Kobe Bryant thing. First of all, we're seeing wackadoodle kind of stuff going on. And obviously this is this is just my chat time. So I want to say a couple things. Number one, I did watch the Lifetime movie last night. Yeah, I watched that last night. I don't know if any of you saw it. And I will talk about that. I want to mention that. I also want to talk about how unhinged people are right now, and how we can rehinge ourselves back to our reality. You know, there was a time when, as a country, we came together, and that's kind of what I'm working on with my new book. And it's very interesting because I'm doing a lot of studying around the 30s and the 40s and a lot of that time period. And they're just crazy things that I'm discovering. And I think that has a lot to do, again, as I talk about Saturn and Capricorn. Capricorn is in its exaltation with the, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, so it is in its exaltation. English, that means it's actually energy that's working together. And here's the key to Saturn. If you don't want to get hit on the head, I'm not kidding, hit over the head like a frying pan, do your work. Do the work you're supposed to do. Be honest, because I'm going to tell you, Saturn in Capricorn doles out justice. Now, what's interesting about justice is that it is the justice that is true and honest. Now, here's something funny, because we would think Sagittarius would be true and honest, right? But what you're going to see coming forward with Saturn in Capricorn is that people who've done their homework and have the facts, they're going to be a lot better off. And I feel that very strongly. And it's very interesting because, especially going from the Sagittarius, which, by the way, I'm a Sag, and I know. See, we tell big stories, right? Our stories are like this big, but Capricorn tells the story of, here's the truth, here's what's going on, and here are the facts. And you go, ooh, you know. So Capricorn, a lot of people, and you might hear the saying of, when you hear, oh gosh, the Saturn return, right? Funny thing about Saturn returns, what that means in English is the planet of Saturn goes around the entire zodiac. It takes about 28 to 30 years. So from the day you're born till you're in your late 20s, early 30s, that's your Saturn return. Now, if you are in your Saturn return, you can either go off the rails and just like all kinds of bad stuff happens, or you learn your lesson and you really grow from it. Now, by the time you are in your second Saturn return, which is about anytime from 58 to 61 in that time period, if you are, I'm thinking now people who were born around, and it would be 1959 to 62 in that period. And again, I don't have the chart in front of me, so I don't know. But if you are turning 60 this year, if you've just turned 60 or you'll turn 61, not only do you have a Saturn return, but you have the actual only time in your lifetime you will actually have a Chinese astrology return. Now, sounds kind of weird, but here's a Chinese astrology, because we talk about the 12 signs in Chinese astrology. You've heard it: ox, pig, horse, snake. However, what happens with that is there's actually 60, if you will. There's more, how many? There's 12 and 5. Okay, so here's the thing. There's actually one a year, and there's 60, I want to say 60 possible combinations with Chinese astrology. So what happens with Chinese astrology, which is not like, obviously our astrology, it's actually much more accurate. When you've had it done, it's like scary stuff. But you have to get somebody who's like a sifu, real master at it, and they can go, yes, you this. And you're like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I digress. So basically, those who were born in 1960 were the year of the rat. And it was the year of, because there's 5 elements in Chinese astrology, it was the year of the metal rat. So even though we have seen a wood rat, you're going to have those 5 elements: earth, fire, forgive me for not remembering, wood, metal, and something else that I can't think of right now. So here's how that works. So if you think about it, it's every 12 years, right? So the first is metal rat, and then let's say 12 years later, you might have, I'm making this up, wood rat. But it takes 60 years. So if you live to be 60, you're going to see not only a second Saturn return, but you're also going to see a return of your exact natal Chinese sign. So if you were born in 1960 is what I'm thinking, because we just had Chinese New Year. So I want to remind you of that as well. So for those of you that are looking at, I'm sitting in my kitchen, just so y'all know, and I'm doing laundry. It's Sunday night. And it's kind of thing. So I'm sitting right here. I was like, oh, I'll just go on. So if you are, like I said, if you are looking at what's going on in the world, first of all, it became a metal rat. Okay. Now let me tell you something about metal rats. Metal rats are practical. They are based on, they're just going to do what they have to do. They're going to cut through the crap. Oh, who said they love my kitchen? I love you, Stephanie. So you're a rat too, Janet. So am I. But it's only if you were born in 1960 that you have the identical year. So, that brings up an important thing. That's why sometimes you'll have a good year in Chinese astrology, even if it's not supposed to be, because if it's a metal tiger year, for example, you being metal, like a metal, I want to say rat, if you're a metal rat, then in a metal tiger year, you're going to have it a little bit easier with the elements of your life. So think about it that way. The earth will move easier for you. So thanks guys. I actually redid my kitchen. I'm just going to let you know. This was just a plain wall, and it had these hideous cabinets. And actually, should I even show you? Okay, it's like a little bit of a wreck, but you can see that's my cabinetry. And so it had these cabinets here. So I pulled it all down, and then it's actually floor to ceiling. You can't see it, but it's floor to ceiling. I did the subway tile, and then I got these floating shelves on Etsy, and I just was like, that's what I'm doing. And then I put in a fabulous island that's so big. It's like the island of my dreams from my childhood. And my friends come over and they go, like, there's 15 of us standing around here. Okay. It's like, whoa, this is a big island. Yeah, it's a big island. So I absolutely love my kitchen. It's like, and I don't sit in here enough. So what I wanted to tell you about about this particular year. So we just had Chinese New Year. Now take a look at what's going on in the world. Chinese New Year, that is one of their biggest celebrations. And they've got a rash of this, coronavirus. Now, it's really, okay, I don't mean to be too conspiracy theory, but I will. I'm on my swivel chair. I love it. Okay, did you notice when you looked at the map? I don't know if y'all been following this coronavirus thing. I'm a little bit of a germphobe, so sometimes... So I go, I'm never leaving my house again. But no one in Russia has gotten it, and no one in North Korea has gotten it. And you look at the dots on the map of where people have gotten it, and it's like, China, this one town, and then it's just spread, right? So you're seeing the spotted places, but no one in North Korea or Russia. So I'm not, just a little suspicious. I'm like, got that, So, woo. So a couple things that I think are very important to recognize is we look at the coronavirus as having started, right? And what that is, and when you see something that is Saturn, Capricorn, that's like, man, I'm going to tell you, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you have lied or you are not honest, Saturn, Capricorn will slap you so hard. And I want to tell you that Saturn, Capricorn really brings up, because again, Capricorn is the worker. They just work. And then you've got Saturn, which is the planet of work. So a lot of people go, oh no, Saturn. I think Saturn's fantastic, because if you do what you're supposed to do, guess what happens? You get rewarded. If you are honest and above board, Saturn will bring you to the forefront. So a couple things I'm going to say about that. Oh, Brittany, good for you. You're Capricorn. I love Capricorn people. I really do. I have a moon Capricorn, so I kind of get along with them. Your moon sign, whatever your moon is in your chart. Okay, when you know your moon sign, it's kind of like it's your emotions. So it's the people you're going to like. It's kind of like Capricorns like me because I'm emotionally like Capricorn, which means somebody said, well, that's withholding and cold. I'm like, well, but it's also that I like to work. I like to do, I like to pay. I like to uncover things. I like to discover things. So, and that's Capricorn, we're workers. So a couple things I want to say too. So people are off the rails. Let's see. Oh, okay, good. Julie, congratulations on your grandson. Yay. So let's talk about, can we just talk about people losing their minds? Okay. I need to just be honest with all of you. I had somebody who got into this whole thing about, and you know me, I say what I think, but it's kind of, how can I put it without being, all right. So in my neighborhood, let's start here. In my neighborhood, this is the dish, okay? We've got this like email chain that goes out, right? somebody's going to find out and they're going to hate me. But anyway, we've got this email chain, and we all, you guys know there's always one in every neighborhood, right? The person that is like always complaining. This one was like a couple months ago, it was the poo problem, right? Because people were putting poo in her trash can. It's like, oh my God, like, can you find something else to be upset about? So there's always something that she's saying that's kind of like, the person that goes, they say the wrong things no matter what, and they don't mean to, but they kind of go, oh, well, that's this. And everybody's like, and in this touchy time, okay, I have a friend who says, oh, that fella, right? Like that fella, that guy. And in this touchy time, people will jump on you and make something up that you said, in like, just like, oh, this is what you mean. No, that's actually not what I mean. And it's really interesting that there's an assumption about people that is just really not okay with me. I have to say that I take you at face value. I feel like if you're going to be an idiot, you're going to show up as an idiot eventually, right? So I feel like I take you as you say you are. I don't really care what, as long as it's kind of, I live and let live is my theory. So anyway, so this went out about 2 weeks ago now. And it was a picture of a pit bull in the neighborhood. And this is like the crazy lady, right? The one who's always like, oh my gosh, there's a flower. It looks like poison, that kind of stuff we get. And sometimes it is, right? That's the problem with people that are kind of like a little loony, is they are right once in a while. And you go, oh, she's right, Anyway, so she put a picture up and she said, this dog's loose in the neighborhood. And it looked like a standard pit. It was a pretty dog, but it was that brownish red. And, she took a picture of it, and fine, anybody's pet, it's loose. An hour later, she puts up this post, and people just went ballistic. It was like, I'm really scared of this dog. I'm afraid it'll attack me. It's loose and running around. Somebody needs to handle it. And, here's the thing, okay? People went insane over it, okay? Because I'm in this, like, if you say something that sounds a little bit like they could make it mean something else, they'll take it and run. You know the type I mean. If you say, oh, that's an apple. What are you saying about apples? Like, oh gosh, get a life. So anyway, so this woman said, I'm really afraid of this pit bull. Can somebody please come and get this? I'm not going to try to catch it. I'm going to call the police. Well, that's what she should have done, is call animal control. But no, in my neighborhood, like, I've got to tell you, it's like this convergence of people going, well, why don't you set a chair in front of your front porch? And if somebody who looks suspicious or is a different color than you, and it was just like, oh my gosh, people got into a litany of how this person was now a racist and how and it was like, guys, she's afraid of the dog. Like, so what? Here's the thing. It's like, and I wrote, of course, me, right? I wrote my own little thing that just said, hey, can we just all like breathe a little? And I just said, here's the truth on pit bulls. I don't have one, but if you want one and you want to raise it, that's your business. I am a little afraid of them. I'm always afraid of dogs I don't know, just me. And I have dogs. So I wrote this, and somebody wrote back that I was racist and he drew the conclusion that anyone who said pit bulls were dangerous without knowing the dog was racist. And my response was, you're kidding, right? And question mark. It was like, that's a joke, right? And people are like, no, it's really a racist thing to think. And I went, no, it's not. If I'm afraid of a dog, just like this person may be afraid of a cat, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about that particular dog, And here's the thing. It's like and by the way, this is going to bring out the people who are going to defend a pit bull, who are going to go, oh, they're the greatest dogs ever. And then there are the people who are like, oh my gosh, they all should go, perish, And honestly, I'm fine with wherever you're coming from. I personally would not approach a pit bull off the leash. That's where I come from. Now, I've heard of people bending down because the pit bull's wagging its tail and they got their face bit. I don't know. That can happen with other dogs. It can. but you know what? I'm just not going to risk it. So there we go. So I just said, I like, you're not following me. Okay, let me just see if, okay, let me just see. I know you're not. I think Angelina just said, I swear I'm not following you. Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, thank you, Angelina, because I'm like, I wouldn't go near a pit bull. But here's the thing that happens. This woman, okay, about a year ago, said something about how one of the projects, she thought that some of the kids who did something bad were from this particular area. And everybody went nuts because they said, oh, she's a racist, she's this. Well, I didn't get involved because I was like, well, I don't know. She may be right. She may be racist. She may not be. I don't know. So now everybody's been kind of waiting for her to do something bad. And my response was, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. All of you just need to just relax. I have a right to be afraid of a pit bull as much as you have a right to own one. And that's the beauty of America. The thing that I feel strongly about is if you have a pet, take care of it. Things happen, pets get out, blah, blah, blah. Those things happen. And the pit bull was found by its owner. The owner came and claimed it. And I've seen the guy walking. I know who it is now. It's a new guy in the neighborhood. And, I don't think that, let's see. I don't know. If I don't know the dog, Jenny's saying, if I don't know the dog, I will proceed with caution. See, I do too. And I just think, and she said, same with cats. I've been scratched too many times. I know cats just, I don't know. There's always 1 in a million that like me, that I can sing to them and they'll come over to me. But for that, let's see. And I were in the same chat and both came here. So I said, oh, got it. Okay, got it. I'm like, what are you not following? All right. So the point I want to make is that people are so quick to jump up and really tell me their point of view about something. And here's funny. And I said, listen, please don't turn this into another political argument. Because you see, what people are edging toward when they do that is they're going, oh, we're going to get closer and closer and closer to saying the R word, and they want to say it to you. Because especially if you're like, I'm one of those people that's like, because my dad, as you guys know, is paratrooper. I'm like, I don't think much of whoever's in office. I just, whatever. But it's really funny because people have accused me of all sorts of things and they get into these long conversations. And the reason I'm sharing this is because have you ever known anybody on Facebook who has changed their mind because someone else posted a political post? No, we don't. And here's the thing. And I think we're progressing enough where you're not going to change me. I'm not going to change you. And certainly we're not going to do it on social media. My feeling is I love to sit down like my parents did. They discussed ideas. They discussed topics. And I have found that when I sit down in a room with people, I sit down and I go, let's discuss this. My dad said to me, and this was obviously before he died, just so you know, I am psychic, but it was before he died. He said, look, we live in a great country, and I'm going to tell you something. Not one person is going to destroy this country, and you're going to be fine, And here's the thing. What I don't like and what I think is happening is that there's this idea that people want to tell you everything that's wrong about your thinking. What happened to the idea of live and let live? I don't agree with you. That doesn't mean that the world will come to an end. And it doesn't make you a bad person if you think differently than me. If what I really don't understand is this one person, and this is very interesting. This is what I'm leading toward, you guys. One person who, oh no, Nikki, what? Somebody said dogs attacked you. I didn't know that. Okay, I'm going to just stay on this for a minute. One person on Twitter said that she said that I was a Trumper and therefore she was not going to buy any of my card decks, any of my work. She was going to stop using my stuff. And I said, I wouldn't consider myself a Trumper. I consider myself an American. And that means I'm open to different ideas. I want to hear what people have to say. The problem is that people don't want to say it. They want to yell it. They want to scream about if I'm not in 100% or I'm questioning something, it means that I must be bad. And you know what? You're not bad if you're asking a question. There's not, how do we learn? And I think that's the problem today is we really don't get to, oh, come on, please don't. And really what she was trying to say is what that term means to us, right? When we hear that, it's like, oh, white supremacist, you hate all races, you are anti this and anti that. And it's like, no, no, no. It's like, so I would never identify as that because that's not me. I think that I really love my country and I love the people in it. And, I really don't like this idea of what's going on with and for those of you that don't know, McCarthyism from the 50s, okay? And I have to tell you, I really feel like this whole idea of like accusing people and then trying to blacklist them, and that is a really, really dangerous precedent to send. And I really think, because somebody messaged me from another channel and they said, will you do an anti-bullying thing? And, I kind of feel this way about stuff, you guys. I'm not going to be against something, but I am going to be for, what I'm going to be for is decorum, decency, having a thought. Having an opinion that's mean is not an opinion. In my opinion, you're an asshole. That's not really an opinion. That's just a mean statement. It really doesn't take much to call somebody a name. It really is that, what's happening. And this is interesting because, when we look at the what's going on in Virginia with the Second Amendment rights, there were it was very funny. There was like, I saw it on, I forget, like something on one of the internet things. And it was a picture of a black guy. And it said white supremacist for guns. And I was laughing because I was like, and here's the thing. I don't know how I feel. I just know that, people are like, oh, it's democracy. I'm like, no, guys, we're a republic. Do you really know the difference? A republic means we live by constitutional law. And most democracies fall apart. And we can look at that from history. But here's the thing. Lady Tasha, I want to welcome you. And, let's see. Tori, have you ever spoke about thought patterns, negative and positive? You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, Desiree, because I guess what I'm saying is, and I'm really glad you brought that up, by the way. The question that comes forward to me, and that Desiree said, have I ever talked about thought patterns? Here's what comes forward to me. The idea of higher energy and lower vibrational energy. So the thing is, do you really think by shaming me and accusing me of something, that's going to what are you looking for there? What are you really looking for? It's to try and call me out and embarrass me and to make me go, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Or and well, you're this, let me re-educate you, right? So it's kind of like, if you think about it, it's like someone who's gay and then people going, let me help you not be. It's like, leave the guy alone, get alone, leave him alone. Like, I really believe in this live and let live thing, right? And here's the end of the day, I don't really dislike anybody who thinks differently than me. I just think you think differently. That's all. And where did that go, you guys? Where did that go? When did we lose decorum? I'm pro decorum. I'm pro civility. And you know what? I'm going to stand up for myself at the same time. I really want to be clear with you. If someone's going to be saying nasty stuff, a lot of times I'll just take them off the page. I don't need them here. I don't think it does us any good to be mean to each other, and I think that's the big thing. It's like, oh, please. So let's talk. I want to talk about a couple crimes that are going on. Hey, Tyson, good to see you. Steve, hey, good to see you. Just want to say hi to people. Nona, let's see. I love you more with you. Okay, with you, stand up. I think it's really important that we as a society start to kind of say, it's not that, you have to remember something. Bullying, and what bullying is it's ignorance. We bully people because they're different than we are. Oh. We bully people because we don't want people to be different than we are. And we want that to be put down. So here's the thing. I don't really care, like in many ways, I really don't care, what you're for, what you're against, because the truth is I'm going to fight for what I believe in, right? And that means that, when I think it was something ridiculous, like a trillion trees are being planted, the federal government just, put forward a thing to plant all these trees. I think that's a great initiative, but I'm sure there's going to be 20 people who come on and go, oh, this is terrible. I want to apologize for being such, oh, you're fine, Sonia. No biggie. Yeah. And listen, we all kind of get like, and here's the thing, we all kind of get like, with each other, and there's a wonderful quote, and gosh, I wish I could find it right now. Let's see, what did Tyson say? Cops do all the, let me see what Tyson said, bad things. I don't know, Tyson, if cops do all the bad things, but then we'll cut them down. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you mean by that. So if you could clarify. The thing is, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I think what I'm talking about is the idea of being kinder to each other. And, that's what I'm, it's what about manipulation? This is a horrible trait, don't you think? You know what I think, Lottie? Lottie just said, what do you think about manipulation? You know what I actually think? I think we manipulate when we're afraid to tell the truth. And I think we're pushing people into corners now where they're afraid to tell the truth. And what happens is you become the person you don't like, because you now have forced people and shut them down to such a point where they are not going to express what's really going on inside. And I think that as a result, you're not going to get truth from people who are saying, well, you're this. And it's like, no, I'm not that. There may be some truth to what you're saying, but I'm not totally that. So you start manipulating it and you start to get into, wait a minute, why am I even arguing this with you? That was the thing I started to realize when I was having this dialogue with this person. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna have a spitting contest. It doesn't matter, because I know what I was thinking. It's this F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I think he said it, and so did Emerson. The idea of, can we all just be okay with two conflicting thoughts, both as true? Because to that one person who has that feeling of, oh gosh, guns are bad, that's true. And for the person who says, I really want to follow the Second Amendment, that's true. So, and I'm not trying to get into an argument of either side, okay? I'm trying to say that they're both true and they both have their own points of view. So what I'm saying is that, it's really hard to break free from something that benefits you. I'm going to give you an example. Okay. So I was working yesterday and I have I'm doing a certification program, and I'm working with, there's like 4 people in that group, and it's a private intensive coaching. So they're getting a lot of attention, and instead of just putting them in teams to work, they're getting to work with me. So I had each of them practice energetically working with each other. And one of the people was talking about being unhealthy, right? And I think that I'm going to get back to what you're saying, Desiree, because I think it's interesting. The thing that happened was she was talking about how she wants to get better, because she's had some health issues. I don't know what they are, and I don't want to get into it. But one of the things I said to her was, well, I have found that, bottom line of it, and I'm losing signal, that what happened was, and I said this, look, the problem with wanting to have health is you are gaining a lot by getting the attention of being the victim. And I don't mean victim as a negative thing, but it's kind of like an energetic of, why would I want to get well when I can hold these people responsible for my being sick? And so That kind of thinking is something that, how are you benefiting by staying in that role of these people are out to get me? You know, this is really the key to this conversation, is like, if these people are against me and I'm living in fear of that, well, what's going to happen is there's a benefit to that, because until it's completely different, I'm not going to be able to shift from that position. And so what I was talking to this woman about was the idea that if you are not well and you're actually getting a lot of attention for not being well, just accept that right now. And she's like, what do you mean? You know, and I said, listen, I said, here's the thing. It's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with going, wow, yeah, I do benefit from the attention, and really getting that energetically in your heart. Because here's the thing, we can't change that energetic until we acknowledge it and accept it. And that's the key to all of this. You know, I think until, and it goes back to what Desiree was saying too, and you know, the thing that we have to look at is that, you know, what are these people benefiting? What's the real benefit by being able to say to people, you are X? Well, as I studied, and I've been studying more and more the parallels between FDR and Hitler. And when you look at both of them, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but they both came into power within 3 weeks of each other, right? So Roosevelt came in 1933. That was when he was sworn in. And Hitler became chancellor, and then he made himself Führer within 3 weeks. I want you to know that they both died within 20 days of each other in 1945. And what happened was, I think it was 45. Forgive me if my year's wrong. I think it was 45, but it may be 46 because my brain, I didn't write it down here. But here's the thing that's very important about this. They both died within 20 days of each other, and neither one of them saw the actual end of the war. It ended within 2 weeks. So what's interesting about this, and by the way, I found out also that FDR was 8th cousins with Churchill. Okay. So let's see. Yes, some thrive on YouTube like it's a virus. Let's see. I just wanted to see, somebody said something about the victim mentality. It's really hard because I have compassion for people who are stuck in that place. When Humanimal just said, when they're stuck in that victim mentality, I really have compassion. And the reason I have compassion is we've all been there. We've all been in that kind of hamster on a wheel. And the idea that there's a righteous point of view. So what happened was, when we look at what was happening in Germany and we look at what was happening in America, the New Deal came in, and the New Deal had many programs. One of them was for artists. The federal government was supporting artists to come in and do murals. And that's why we saw so much nouveau riche in the 30s, right? The very nouveau idea of like, you know, art nouveau. That's what I was saying, art nouveau. And that was the new art of the time period. And it had a very distinct look to it. The other thing that happened was we had the highest murder rate we'd had in our history at that time in America. And what happened was Roosevelt came in and he put all those young men from 18 to 25 back to work. And what came of that was we had our national parks, we had new roads put in, all of those things started happening. So our infrastructure was getting a lot better. Now, I want to also let you know that there were isolationists who were completely opposed to this. They did not want anything to do with the war in Europe. They felt it was their problem. We just come off of World War I within 15 years. So by the time we're looking at that decade from 33 to like 39, when Hitler really started, well, actually he had opened the first concentration camp. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Dachau. And he had already opened that by the time he became Führer in 33. So just to give you the idea, their solution was these people are bad and we've got to eradicate these people. Interesting, huh? So what's happening is the thought of you're wrong, you're bad, you're this, is that energy. Now, here's the funny thing. No matter what side you're sitting on, you could say you're right. But here's the other thing. When we go back to looking at our history and we look at FDR, I mean, I am telling you, Congress tried to impeach him. They hated him. It was like crazy what was going on. And yet at the same time, it was the first time we had a deficit. It was the first time we went into having debt. And people say, oh, we came out of debt in World War II. That is somewhat true. The idea of the war economy, it is somewhat true. But you know, we were in trouble way before the war, and we had tipped up in some bad ways. And one of the things that happened is all the things going on in the stock market, just to kind of let you know what was going on, was these stocks were not watched and people were cheating like crazy. Interestingly, my grandmother, a lot of people threw the paper away after 1929. My grandmother kept a couple of them. She was like, well, I had a couple paper. And she actually made money from the stock market because when the stocks came back, she cashed in. Okay. Okay, let me see. Is it age old? The other is the enemy. The other is not to be trusted. It doesn't matter which. See, that's it. Humanimal just said it. It's always, and this is the thing that we have to understand here now, is that what has created the infighting? It's not any person. This has been going on for a long time. What happens is we use something as an excuse and then we go that, oh yeah, and we can all get on one side or we can get on the other. And the thing is, it's like, I think it was, oh gosh. Martin Luther King, again, just had that birthday, right? So Martin Luther King said, you know, we may have arrived on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. And, you know, that's the thing to remember, is that we are in America, we're a melting pot, we're everything. And it's like, you can't say this person's this, it's like we're everything. So it's a very interesting time to be in. Let's see, dehumanizing and making people an it. Let's see, Joseph just said, Tori, I often wonder what your thoughts are on the teachings of Abraham Hicks, that everything is attraction, there's no exceptions. Okay, so I do think that's true. And I really, and it's hard because people don't want to hear that. Now, here's the key. If everything's an attraction, though, and we're looking at things as our highest calling and what's best for everybody, then we're always going to look at it like, if someone gets ill, right, they are trying to heal something. If someone is in a difficult relationship, they're trying to heal something. I don't think people get into bad circumstances and attract them into their life because they're bad people. I think they're people that are trying to heal themselves. I think the issue is not that we stay too long. Like, it's not that we get into it. What was it that, oh gosh, I loved it. She wrote a book in the, I want to say it was in the 70s, maybe 80s, Women Who Love Too Much, Robin Norwood, which is interesting because she was a therapist who became an astrologer. Very interesting stuff. But anyway, she said that there's no shame that we get into bad relationships. It's when we stay long after the affair is over. And I think that's the issue, is that we stay too long. It's like we don't get the signs. We don't see what's going on. And so I'm just going to answer a couple questions people had and I wrote down. Let me see. Why is it so difficult to be a decent person? You know what, Brittany? It really isn't. Here's the problem that happens. It's not that we can't be it's not that we have a difficulty being a decent person. It's that we have the difficulty when people are not decent people. That's the problem, is that when people accuse us of things, it has to, you know, it's our natural, I don't know, it's in my nature to go, oh, you know, like a word I don't want to say here. Let's see. Rehealing. Okay. Okay. So a couple things that, yep. If you got to go to jail forever, Cruz, you take them out. Take him out, baby. I trust you. I want to get back to Hicks, and I want to creativity, media trying to stunt it. Thank you for bringing all this up. Yeah, and so this is something I want to say, is that we are in a very interesting time. because all of a sudden everything is opinion. And, I look at, regular TV, right? And I go, I don't want to hear that from you. I just want the facts. I feel like that Joe Friday, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Just tell me this happened, this happened, this happened. Don't tell me somebody's bad or good or because the thing is, I don't want that from you, Mr. TV. I want to hear just the facts. I want to open a paper and just see the facts. That's by the way, that is very Saturn in Capricorn. It's very, what's the facts? What's the truth? Because if you're not telling the truth, you are going to get slammed right now. And by the way, look for this week to be like a week where things get uncovered. Because when you go into that natural transition that we're in right now, because it's kind of like, when people talk about moon void, of course, that means that there's really, the moon is in between two places. So it's kind of like crossing a bridge between two places. So when I say that also, and I'm going back to something else here, which is even in when I teach people card reading and I'm talking about energy of chakras, and if I might say the second chakra to the third chakra, right? So the second chakra is really our emotions, it's feelings, it's all of that stuff. Third chakra is about planning and things we're going to do. Well, most people get stuck between the second and third chakras. So they get stuck somewhere on that bridge. And what I want to say is that that's what a moon void, of course, is. It's like there's no decision. You're kind of in the middle. There really is, when you're watching this transition with Saturn going from Sagittarius, which is like, woo, where's the party? Like, let's go. The dancing's starting in the kitchen. That is very like, and Saturn's like, no, stop that. So it's kind of like the kids are just the what do they say? The inmates have taken over the prison, but it's kind of like that. The children are out running everything because it's like fun, but it's like, yeah, but you know what? You got to do your homework and it's midnight, so you look at very much solar plexus. That is your, yeah, that's what I mean. Third chakra. Okay. So did I just get into a whole thing here? Nuance makes that difficult. We have opened ourselves to many layers of nuance over the years. You know what I want to say to you, Fox? I love that, Fox 5 Love. I want to say this because that does tie in. Here's the problem. People don't know nuance. They're making it up to suit their story. You know what I mean. Nuance used to be this. That was nuance. Now, people are taking words out of context to suit their own purpose. Now, here's the thing. People are not behaving. And you know what I mean? You misbehave. Saturn in Capricorn is just going to be, whoop, and you're going to be like, and so it is showtime when you see Saturn in Capricorn. It really is. So what I want to say to all of you is this. If you've been doing your work and, I really want, you know what I want? I want one of these. I know I have them down here. Shh. Don't tell mom. Hold on. I've got this right here. My favorite. Just send Gatorade. It's like my favorite thing ever. It's like it's neat to stay in the kitchen. It's my little commercial for low sugar. It doesn't matter. It's really good. And by the way, I found out of the ADHDs, it's okay for us to have sugar. Look out, like small amounts. Okay. But just to keep our brains going. So what I'm trying to say, books on teaching by Esther and Jerry Hicks are excellent. I agree. And I really like a lot of that material. I think that where we have to, and this is what I say to people all the time, like when I'm doing radio interviews or, when I've been interviewed for stuff, for my books and stuff, I always say, look, I'm less woo and more you. I feel it's great to have those ideas, but if you're not using them practically in your life, if you're not really working on yourself and changing that part of you, then why do it? I had a woman write to me, I think it was the other day, and she was like, it was this whole big thing about, and it was interesting. I don't know where it is. And if I had it, I'd find it because it was on YouTube. But it was one of those things where she said, I really like your stuff, but it's okay for you to talk about astrology. When you started talking about cards, that's occult and it's not okay. And, she basically said, I'm going to have to stop watching you. And I was like, oh, okay. But what really came forward to me was, again, remember I said people are making stuff up and exaggerating it. So I wrote her back and I said, listen, I am the author of the Chakra Wisdom Oracle cards and the Chakra Wisdom Tarot deck. So if that, right off the bat, I was upfront. I said, so that is me. That is who I am. However, I worry about the definition of occult that you're using. Occult is an area that I don't mess with, you guys. First of all, voodoo is a religion. I am not in that religion. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I'm not judging it. It just means I don't know about that. I don't know about black magic. I don't know about Wicca. I don't know about, voodoo. Now, all of that falls under the umbrella of occult. Now, do I diss any of it? No, not at all. I think it's fine. I think that's your thing. But you know what? I have a healthy respect for that. In other words, I don't criticize it. I don't get into it's not the right thing, because you know what? It's just not my thing. And that's what I said to this person. I was like, look, you're fine. If you feel like, if it really scares you, go ahead. That's fine. I said, but what I want to be very clear about is that there's a big difference when you talk about occult. And I think that a lot of people take definitions and lump everybody into it. Like, oh, that person's a Trumper. Well, not really. Not really. It's like they're the first ones to say, personal rights and all this stuff. And then other people go, oh, but that doesn't matter because, it's like, no. If you decide to use a word incorrectly and then you lump somebody into it, that's on you. So it goes back to what Brittany said about, why are people not decent? It's because people are living in fear. They don't want to be accused of it, so they're going to accuse you first. So think about it. Isn't that what happened with the McCarthy era? And I'll tell you, if you ever get a chance, I don't think the movie was that good, but if you ever get a chance to watch, and if you guys know about it, the difference between, yeah, exactly. Okay. If you get a chance to look at the Joe McCarthy, the Senate hearings, and not Walter Winchell. I can't think of the guy's name. Oh my gosh. Oh, Morrow, Edward R. Morrow. He stood up at a time when nobody in this country was standing up. He stood up to McCarthy, who was saying he was blacklisting people in Hollywood. People were going, that guy's a communist. And this was like, that guy's entire life got ruined. So when I say this to you, this was very serious. And that's what's happening now. Well, this person's that. And you know what? You don't know. Okay. And I really think it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult when you, I hope it's just your screen, Humanimal. Oh, okay. Well, we'll find out. If I suddenly get cut out, it'll be like, hey guys, thanks. Good talking to you. So what I want to talk about really quick is a couple crimes I want to cover coming up. One of them is I really want to go back into Scott Peterson. There's some stuff there that has been bothering me for a while. And the other thing is I am done. Oh, fire is, okay, good. Okay. So I want to go back to Scott Peterson at some point. I'm reading that book that was written, and it's very interesting. I can't think of the name of it. Forgive me, guys. I'm tired and I got a lot of work to do tonight still. But I got my Gatorade. I'm so happy I'm in the kitchen. Hold on. Pagan seems to. I want to hear what Fox 5 Love says. Reminds me of Foxglove. Seems to encompass a Lumodioc mindset by definition. Funny because it does include shamanism, Taoism. I mean, anything seeming mystical. Now that's the thing too, is that, there was a gentleman who came on and said, astrology is hooey. It was on one of my astrology things. And it was a very interesting conversation because by the end of it, I basically, I just said, here's the letter. And some of you remember it. Some of it you remember. It was, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. And it's basically about the imagination and the power of the imagination. And do we see fairies? No, but they exist. And the idea of you can take apart a child's rattle and open it up and there's nothing in there but seeds. You won't, you can't take apart what makes the magic. And this is the thing I want to say about what was so important about the New Deal. And this is what was very important about Roosevelt investing in not just the infrastructure, but artists, and doing things that, even though, and by the way, the news hated him. The news said everything bad about him. And he was a Democrat. His fifth cousin was Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy was a Republican. Now, Teddy started the Square Deal, right? And that meant a square deal for all Americans. And he was really very, I want to say, progressive for his time. He really got up and said, no matter what the color of your skin, you have a right to having a square deal from our country. And it was really like, the idea of a good square deal. Well, that became something else. But what I want to say is that somebody said to me, I think all of this magic stuff is hooey. And I said, I just wouldn't want to live my life without a little bit of magic, just that belief that something greater than me. And, just because I pick up a tarot deck, the tarot isn't evil. It's the person that touches it. It's not the deck itself, just like the Bible. You can see that there are people who swear, on a Bible and they go kill people. So, we really can't say, and I think one of the things we're missing, going back to what was said earlier, was the idea of nuance, and the idea of, not every person who says that they're a witch is doing evil stuff. And not every person who goes to church is such a great guy or gal. So I think that what's happening is people are trying to define everything by this or this. And if you do this, you're evil. And you know what? We, as the people who know better, we really can't fall into that. We can't. And I have to watch myself sometimes, because sometimes I can get into this and I'm like, wait a minute. I need to step back because I don't want to get into that argument with somebody. And sometimes it's just fun and then I delete it later. But, sometimes you just go, really? And here's the thing. I'm a human being, right? So I sometimes might hand signal people about how I think they're driving, okay? I know I've been known to do it. But, we're human. We do crazy stuff. Let's see. Considering we work on energy, I think it's, I think the thing we have to believe is that, let's see, energy is source and source is energy. Flash in your window made me jump. Oh, you know what it is? Actually, behind me, I have a yard that kind of goes into a valley almost, right? So what's funny is on the other side of it, there's actually a road, which is probably about half a mile across. And that's happened to me where I've looked up and there's like flash of light. And I'm going, what is that? And it's like just a car going by about a mile away. So it's kind of like, I'm on a hill. My house is built into a hill. So it's kind of like let's see. Here's the thing. Glinda said to Dorothy, not all witches are ugly. And, this is what I want to say to you. Be very, very mindful of labeling anybody anything, because it really is that thing in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it says, there's a bit of bad in the best of us and a bit of good in the worst of us, but we all have a right to be here. And it is actually a Shakespearean quote. It's taken from that. But the point is, just remember when you see someone who is really in an intolerant state, and it was interesting because this one person was really kind of attacking me about stuff. And I just said, I'm gonna curtail this conversation. And I didn't say that aloud. What I said was, I'm just gonna agree to hold two different thoughts as true. Because to this person, her point of view is absolutely true. And to me, my point of view is true. The difference between her and I is that I can see why she feels that way. I do know why she feels that way, and I do have an understanding of it. And I think it's about having the compassion for someone that thinks differently. Because I can't necessarily go in and change somebody's mind on social media, but I can be the person who shows decorum. And I think that's really the best way to say it. Let me just see. Exactly, Sonia. Yin and yang. See, we need each other. And this is the thing that people forget. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, because most of you know I live in Asheville. Okay, so here's the thing, and I'm going to wrap up in a minute or two. You know, I live in a town that is like absolutely crazy politically, right? Because you have like these rabid liberals on one side, and then you have these like rabid conservatives. And so it's like this, right? Because you'll have like this pocket, and then you have people that think this way, people that think this way. And it's just all this. And somebody said, oh my gosh, how can you live in that? I go, well, what's interesting is that I really believe we need both. We really do. We need the people who are artists and in some ways progressive and you know, who will save the buildings, who will find the meaning in certain things. And then we need the people on the other side to say, hey, don't spend that on that. You know, and I think there's something to both. And I really feel like I really think about when I go in and I'm voting for a federal election, it's very different. I think differently than I might locally. Because for me, it's like I have a different way of going about things. But I am going to tell you something, that no matter what we think, everybody thinks they're doing the right thing. Just remember that. You know, nobody thinks they're doing it wrong. And even if you look at them and go, oh my gosh, really, are you like dressing like that? You know, we don't think anything if they dress like that for a football game, but if they dress like that for a political reason, we go, okay, that's crazy. You know, like, and it kind of is, you know, it's like, whatever happened to decorum? You know, talking about things other than that, like, and I think it's because we have made things mean something about us, as opposed to just accepting that people are different, you know, and we may have different ways of, you know, thinking about things. Mary, good to see you. I just want to, we insist our nuance into a state of definition. You know, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I think that here's the thing. I don't think, and this is my opinion, as I go back and I look at history, and I've been doing so much research on that time period. Oh my gosh, it's like, wow. And it was interesting, you guys, I have to tell you this, it blew my mind, okay? I bought this book on paratroopers, because I wanted to see what kind of, you know, stuff they carried, and because I'm writing in that era. And there in the book is a picture of my dad. My dad, and the guy says, here's Alec Hartman, Tech 4 Sergeant, paratrooper, 82nd Airborne in his, and I'm like, that's my dad. Like, he's in a book. And then I'm like looking through this book, okay? This is when, go back to coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And by the way, if you really want to know if you're aligned emotionally in life, you're going to see that coincidences start showing up. And you have to look internally and go, that's not weird. That's the way God works in my life. It's that I get signs and I get feelings and I get a sense of what's right and wrong. And I'm going to tell you, we are never right when we are in the energy of fighting someone. It just can't be. So I'll get people go, oh, you know, am I going to win this, what is it, lawsuit? And I'm like, the minute you're in a lawsuit, you've already lost. So I don't even want to hear it, even if you get the money, because you're in a fight. It's not fun. It's kind of like once you get, knock wood, if someone gets cancer, they have to get the surgery or the medicine to get rid of it to start with a clean slate. It's not fun, you know? So when I say this to you, it's kind of like energetically, I was opening this book. I know you're like, where's she going? Stay with me. Just breathe and here for the journey. So I'm opening this book. I saw my dad's picture. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I flipped through to the back of the book. There's a picture of 3 guys. My dad was in the middle, and he was the radio operator. So, you know, I don't know if you know this, but they carried 80-pound packs. 80 pounds, okay? That's how heavy it was they were marching with every day. And they still today carry very heavy packs. But anyway, there's this picture again of my dad, and this time he's in the middle of 2 guys, and there's a guy in the back. And he's kind of looking like this out of the door of it looked like it was a stick. I don't know that it was a plane. It might have been a glider. And there's my dad standing there and two guys on either side. And it says, again, who the three people were and the guy in the back. And then it says, these three guys, and they named the guy, my dad, this other guy, survived D-Day, but so-and-so in the doorway didn't. And there was this driving it home that, we went, I want you to know this too, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but do you know that more men died during the training for D-Day and the landing than actually died on D-Day? And many people don't know that because they had these 80-pound packs, and even in training, the boats that carried them in, one guy made a mistake and he lowered the thing early, and all of these guys, disembarked, and they were in deep water and they drowned. So there are many people that died in that time period. So one of the things that we forget is that, I remember saying to my dad, like, why'd you go? And he said, well, I had a deep empathy for the Jews and I had to go. And that was kind of how he left it. And I can look at this now and say that, as the more research I do, and believe me, I'm not pro-war, I'm pro-peace. I didn't know that that our military bases worldwide are the number one, employer of people in some countries. And that blew my mind because they employ local people to run the bases and stuff like that. So it's very, very interesting. So anyway, so I was in this book and there's a picture of my dad and I went, wow, my dad was part of history. Like, this is like, and I always kind of knew it, I've had some of his stuff. I have the original sheet, by the way, because it had everybody's name typewritten, the old Courier font. And I could see my dad's handwriting. He would cross out, he would cross out the name, and it would say KIA, MIA. So you could see, and it was the entire 508 Company B. He had everybody's name there. Somebody said, okay, let's see. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Okay. Let's see. I'm seeing 888, 1010. Okay, numbers, that's fine. I agree with you, Cruz Boston. I didn't know that America didn't always hate Hitler. That was weird too. No, it wasn't that they didn't hate Hitler. They didn't know what was going on. They really, and this is something you all need to understand, is like, there was the reporting in those days. It wasn't that they didn't hate Hitler. It wasn't that we didn't hate Hitler. We had just come off of World War I, which was a disaster for us. We went into, we were just practically really broke. And the people that were running the country in the 30s, think about this, were the guys and gals who went to war, well, really guys, who went to war in World War I. They came back, and, when they came back, they were like, no more of that, because it was trench warfare. It was really cruel. It was really just the most brutal. Listen, no war is nice. Okay. But, I remember saying to my dad, I was like, wow, that guy died, blah, blah, blah. My dad would say, what do you think war is, Tori? I was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, this isn't something that, people pull levers and we go to war. And it's like, oh, that's true. But anyway, the thing that is interesting is it's not that America didn't hate Hitler. We didn't know what he was doing. We didn't really understand it. I would say that you have to remember, we were hungry. Our country was starving too. We did not have the kind of, any kind of apple you want. You go in the supermarket today and there's like 75 apples, My dad used to tell me when he was a teenager, he would go behind, in those days, it was the old A&P, the supermarket. And he would rifle through the trash and they would take out the fruit that was somewhat good, and then they would slice it so they could eat. I mean, there was people were impoverished here, and we didn't have the kind of reporting that, the kind of instant things. I found out Kobe Bryant died today because I was like, oh, something's going on. I turned on the TV and then I saw it, and then I jumped onto the internet. But what I'm saying is that it's not that Americans didn't hate Hitler. They didn't know what was going on. And as we started to find out what was going on, it started to worry people, but people were not like, it's not our war. See, that was the big thing. We always said it was Europe's problem. It was Europe's war. It wasn't our place, because we didn't want to be involved in it again. And then all of a sudden, in 1939, it was September 1st, 1939, the World's Fair was going on. I think I've shared this with you guys. That's where we got the term Blitzkrieg, because Germany completely, and by the way, they were so sneaky. They had soldiers in the towns, in Poland, just walking around, and then the bombs came in and they just blitzed Poland. And that's where Blitzkrieg came from, because all of a sudden those soldiers now came out with guns and just, were marching people out. They took the Polish Jews out first. So there was a lot of things that were going on that we didn't know. We kind of had, Hitler takes Poland. And I was like, oh, that's may not be our problem, But what we had a very strong allegiance with Britain. And it was, I have to say, I always admire the stamina of the British. I have to, because you have to remember, guys, they were being bombed for 4 freaking years before we got there. I mean, can you imagine? So if you think about their history and what they endured, keep a stiff upper lip. No wonder they had to and there was a lot of propaganda. My dad, I have one of the sheets. It was one of the orders that my dad gave out to people, and he got, which was never trust a German. And it was really all about that. It was in those times we couldn't talk to anybody. So think about it this way. We didn't really know what was going on. So by the time we knew, we started to figure something out in 1939. And a lot of the Jews here started to know, because you see, they were hearing from relatives. But, it was so anti-Semitic. And the other thing is that by the time they dropped the bombs on us, remember that Japan dropped the bombs on us because they wanted to destroy our shipping fleet, because they wanted Panama. They wanted all access to the Panama Canal, and they knew if they cut us off, it would be over. So there was a lot of strategic things going on. Japan was an ally of Germany. Germany, by the way, Hitler did not want to declare war on America. And this is something I'm really discovering in some of the material I'm uncovering. And what happens is, because Germany and Japan were allies, they were forced to declare war on us. And of course, just so you know, Britain and France had already declared war on Germany. However, France was taken over within months. I mean, there was no resistance. So, but there was an underground. So I want to be clear about that. Let's see. I want to say, reveal the mindset of knowing what Hitler was. We are strategically allowed to feel for whom we do. Fact is, I'm amazed this was not allowed. I'm missing some of the conversation. The movie The Great Dictator, was not in fact to be played in America at the time because it was created as an anti-Hitler. So one of the things that I want to say is that you have to remember what was going on also in our Congress. Congress was split. We had the isolationists who said, no, we don't want anything from Europe. And then we had FDR kind of like sneaking in the idea of, we'll sell things to Britain. So we were selling, by the time 1939 came around, we were selling things to them, but it was on loan. So there were a lot of things that were going on there. And then, of course, we got very involved. And there were a lot of ships that the Germans would hit along the waters because they didn't want us, getting over to England. And a thing to remember too is that it was a world war, everyone. It was a world war. Now, while Spain wasn't involved, they were at war in their country. The Mussolini sided with Hitler, and then he left the Axis powers, because they were called the Axis powers, the alliance with Hitler. Now, my father told a story about, and maybe I'll put it up for you guys. It was one I wrote for my new book, but it really is about opening up a concentration camp. And I remember him saying to me, all the guys that grumbled about we're here for a couple lousy, because my father was like, he wouldn't stand for that. And he said, every guy who ever complained, he said, I saw those tough guys with tears running down their faces. So, we have to remember, that when we look at what's going on here, and I think it's super important that we remember that there are people that came before us that went and gave their lives. They liberated people. And I want to remind you of something very important, that my father said when they liberated France from the Germans, the Allies were spat upon. The French women, many of them hated the Allies. They were slapping them and get out, and in obviously in French, but the reason they hated Americans and the Canadians and all of the Allies were because Germans had been living there for 4 years. So a lot of these women had fallen in love with Germans. And this is really important. Sometimes when you do the right thing, people will hate you. So you have to remember that it takes a lot of courage to write that book, even though people are going to hate it, to do something that says who you are. Let's see. No one deleted any of your comments, but okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. No one deletes your comments, but if a comment is too long, it automatically will not post. Oh, I see. That's interesting, Cruz Boston. You're so smart. She's so smart. And there are great books on numerology, by the way. Let me see. I don't know. And I don't know what that means. Okay. Hey, yeah, Carol, good to see you. I don't know what's going on with your comments. Let me see. Okay. Oh, I'm glad, Sonia, I'm glad you mentioned this, the Dust Bowl. That was another thing that was going on in America at the time. You have to remember the West was a mess. It was all dust, and it was the Dust Bowl. 1939, the film that came out was Gone with the Wind. 1940 was Grapes of Wrath. So when we look at how the actual film was replicating art, and the Globe Theater, I want to say, gosh, was it the Globe Theater? Forgive me, I'm my brain. But Clifford Odets was part of that. And Odets wrote Waiting for Lefty, which was all about the unions. And it was FDR that created unions, and he helped unionize America. He also created, as I mentioned, Social Security. He created a lot of things, a lot of systems that actually have been very good. The issue happens is that, and by the way, it became a very heavy, right? It became an extremely heavy federal government. And then, of course, once we had Truman come in, and by the way, I don't know if you guys ever read, and I read the book Truman. He was a foul-mouthed guy. I don't think he ever got past the 8th grade, but he was Roosevelt died during his 4th term. Do you believe it? He was the only president in our history who ever made it to a 4th term. He was elected 4 times. And, really, I think had a lot to do with the war. But the point is, he died a couple weeks in, and then it was left to Truman, who did not know about the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project, guys, was, it was Albert Einstein, and I can't remember the other guy's name. They were scientists who developed, I think it was the hydrogen bomb, the atom bomb. Forgive me for not remembering, but they developed the bomb that would be dropped on Japan. And when Truman came in, he knew nothing about it. So he learned about that in 1944, right? So these are the things I want to say. 45. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 45. But these are things that we don't know about because it happened all so long ago. Yeah, exactly, Stephanie. You can only be elected twice, and that was passed after FDR. But what happened was he got his first term, then he didn't even go to the caucus. He didn't even do any campaigning, and he was reelected. So his first term, he was elected in 1932. He came into power 33, same as Hitler. He was then reelected in 36. He then, of course, he stayed on, and then he was reelected in 1940. And then he was president when Pearl Harbor happened. 1,500 men died. And then he was reelected a fourth time. And what was interesting in those days is he didn't have the same vice president. And he did not like Truman at all. He and Truman were like, they didn't like each other at all. But toward the end, they started to understand each other. And Truman ran as his vice president because a lot of this was very political within Congress and the House. They put these people in. I just want to see. Right. The man that invented the atom bomb. That's it. You got it. That's it. Atom bomb. And yes, so this was the only president who really was, and good to see you, Nikki. He was the only president who did 4 terms. And afterwards, that was when they really limited it. Part of it also was that he was such a, how can I put it? He was a centrist in many ways, because you see, his fifth cousin, Teddy, was a Republican, and FDR was the great Democrat, because he set up those social programs that really was saving us. We were in trouble. We had Hoover as president right before, not to be confused with J. Edgar. That was FBI. But one of the things that also happened was people were glorifying gangsters in the 30s, because you see, Hoover brought in prohibition, and people were just like, needed something, they needed drugs, they needed alcohol, and they didn't have it. So the speakeasy grew. And that was when because Hoover brought that in, the gangsters were really revered, like Capone and all of those, really wise guys. It was very big. Okay. Yes, I'm going to talk about astrology and tarot. That's very interesting. Thank you, Blue Flame. Okay. So to come full circle with it, it wasn't until, forgive me for the year, I think it was 35 or 36, where some FBI agents and this is one of the powers that it was 35, it was right before he got reelected. This is the power of Roosevelt. Roosevelt, nobody really liked him, but he just did stuff. And they were like, I can't believe you're doing that. It's illegal. And he put things through. He rushed them through because he had to save America. This is what was going on in that time. We were starving. So what happened was, it was 1935, and some FBI agents and some police officers were escorting, and forgive me, I don't think it was Nettie. I forget who it was, and I'll have to look it up again, because I have it all in my notes for my book. They were escorting him into I want to say the courthouse, and they were ambushed and shot. So all of the FBI agents and these cops were shot because they didn't have guns. That was when Roosevelt overrode some of the I think things that were decided before, and he said FBI agents can carry guns now. And it was from that one incident the public started to turn against the mobster thing, because before that, and he also legalized alcohol. He ended prohibition. So what happened was, prior to that, the public was like, the only way we can get what we need is through the black market. Well, Roosevelt started to change all that. And that's when people started to change from the distrust of the cops into, okay, it's going to be all right. And so a lot of the social programs that he started, some of them never passed. Some of them went away. But it really... yeah, he didn't want to do it. I'm glad you said that. Oh, you're buffering? Okay. So it's perfectly obvious the whole world is going to hell. The only possible chance we might have is that we do not attempt to prevent it from doing so. And you know what's funny is they've been saying that since the dawn of time. World is, it's hell. And Oh, I'll buffer for you. I'm just going to say, and if you would think of it, just give it a thumbs up. I appreciate if you would tonight. I'm going to wrap in a moment because what I need to do is I need to work. And believe it or not, I'll be up late working. And I have to put my nails on. What do you guys think? I think I'm going to wear these. I think I'm going to do this week. What do you think? I think it's kind of pretty. I'm in the mood for snow and we don't get any here. I'm so bummed. We normally get like I want to say a boutique snow. I call it like an artistic snow. Once a year it dumps and we go, ooh, snow. And everybody runs out with like a cardboard and pretends they're, using the snow. And then it's all over. So I wish we had snow more. But I don't know that I could live in the cold, but I have really enjoyed spending some time with all of you. And I'm thinking in the next day or two, I'm going to talk about Color Street. So I'm going to do something on that. And then I also am going to be covering more true crime. I want to come back to that. And I'm going to wrap with this thought. I'm going to leave you with a Chris Watts thought. I watched the Lifetime movie last night. And the one thing that really bothered me was they deleted all the parts where he had pre-planned the murder, where he said, I'm going to be there that morning. Don't go, all that. So there you go. And that, as they say, is that. So I know, guys, I'm sorry. I know we need a lot of stuff, but we'll talk about all of that. And I'm glad you're here tonight. Much love, everyone. Have a very blessed week, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.